Hey Ronnie, super glad to have you on this show. We've interviewed best-selling authors, entrepreneurs, and so on. But today is special because I really appreciate working with you a lot. You've been a source of wisdom for our team, so thanks for being here. And today we're going to be sharing basically your views on COVID-19 and what it means to marketing and how do we get ahead of COVID-19.
Yeah, thanks, Alistair. It's been a pleasure to be here. I mean, I've been part of the program now for a year and a half. I've seen a lot of great companies, a lot of great people figuring out what kind of company they want to be and figure out their marketing and really kind of transform through their experience through the Innouvo program. When it comes to how to thrive in COVID, the biggest thing I want to get people to understand is that we've kind of gone backwards in the way that marketing works. And I don't mean like we've kind of, we've devolved, but what works right now and what's going to work more in the future is more of the old style marketing. When I say old style, I mean that people know you, people like you, people feel connected to you, people feel like you're a part of their life, that you're helping them in some way. So the people who are winning right now during COVID, and I'm very fortunate to work in a company right now that's actually growing faster than it ever has as a marketing agency during coronavirus. And the reason we're able to do that is because we've transformed ourselves into a hub that brings people together, that brings our audience and helps them with information they need access to help them get through this tough time. We're focusing on how do we help people? How do we connect people? How do we bring people together? So for example, I work at a marketing agency that works primarily with lawyers, right? So we created an ebook telling lawyers, here's how you can respond to coronavirus with your marketing, right? And through that book, we were able to then launch a webinar series that now brings anywhere between 2,000 to 4,000 lawyers together, in addition to 5, 6 or different legal influencers who are now helping these lawyers figure out how do they apply for the payment protection plan loan, right? Which if in the United States, if you're not in the USA, that's basically trying to give businesses loans to keep paying their employees during COVID, right? And we have no idea what that stuff, we know nothing about that, right? We're a marketing agency, but we've become the hub that brings experts together and brings the lawyers together, right, to talk about that. And having brought all those people together, we're getting the benefits of that. We're reaping the credit of being, and all the goodwill, right, of being the person or the company that brought people together and helped them in a time of need, right? So to get ahead of the COVID with your marketing, focus on how can you help people, how can you bring them together, and how can you be the one leading the charge and comforting people and being a steadying hand in a time of difficulty.
So, okay, Ronnie, thank you for sharing these insights. So, but on the ground, concretely for entrepreneurs, what does it mean in the day-to-day? What do they need to change immediately according to you?
Yeah, that's a good point. I appreciate you noticing that I was a little general there. I can get a little wide-eyed. So bringing it back down to the practical, what's happening on the ground. And before I go into that, I can't help it. I have to go a little more general and talk about something that's really important and happening across the world right now. And as a species right now, understand that we are experiencing an emotional event, right? Everyone has gotten to a point of expecting a certain level of safety, a certain level of the world working this way. It's just as painful for you as it is for everyone else. And what's very interesting about what's happening right now as a society is that we're all admitting that. We're talking about it. We're hearing people who say they felt, anxiety for years, feeling like they're finally feeling normal and catching up because everyone else now is anxious and having anxiety. And we're all talking about the fact that this is emotionally hard and very difficult. And that's a very different thing. We've never done that before as a species. We've always kind of stuffed it down, pretended it wasn't there, ignored it, whatever. And nowadays, we're becoming a much more emotionally intelligent and aware society across the globe, right? Even just by talking about it. And because of that, what that's going to mean is that on the ground, you are now going to be expected, dare say required, to understand the emotions of your customers. And that means in everything you say to them and every piece of marketing you create, you need to be able to address and understand the underlying emotions of why they care. What do they actually need? What do they actually feel, right? And if you've seen a buyer's journey map, that goes all the way from, initial consideration to decision to, I skipped awareness, to, post actual purchase. And there's a whole journey there, right? But in each of those, they have a different emotional experience, right? When people don't even know they have a problem, right? They may feel one way, right? And then when they realize they do and they want to solve it, they may feel a different way, like overwhelmed. And when they're making a decision, they might feel confident, right? And there's a whole...
How do you get emotionally in tune with the customers? There's a lot to do with customer data analytics, right?
I would actually say, I mean, I think we get too tied up in that we need data to understand people. And at the end of the day, everyone we're advertising to is just like us, right? And I'm not saying you can reference everything off of yourself, but what I can say is if you want to understand the emotions of people, understand the emotions of yourself first, right? No amount of data is going to teach you emotional intelligence or emotional awareness, right? You're not going to become empathetic because an app told you this is what empathetic looks like. It doesn't exist, right? So the data isn't stopping you. The data is becoming an excuse, right? Because what you can do, no matter what GDPR says, is you can, at the very least, go through your own emotional journey, heal yourself, understand your traumas. Most people have it. Most people had difficult lives in some way, right? Explore that, understand it, know it, become empathetic to your own experience, right? Then take that empathy, go interview 10, 15, 20, 50 people in your as your ideal client, right? And talk to them about their emotions, get in front of them, try to get vulnerable with them, build that relationship, understand them, use your empathy. It's not going to be data. It's not going to be an app that magically gives you empathy. You've got to develop for yourself first, and then use that empathy to understand others. And when you can do that, the marketing comes naturally. And you don't need, the data becomes an accessory. It becomes a way to be even more targeted to make sure you get the right people with this message. But it's not going to give you the right message. Data doesn't give you the right message. It gives you the right target. That's very different things.
Excellent, excellent. So bonus question. So how, for an entrepreneur who maybe is coming from the technological background, scientific background, empathy is not always a natural thing. How did you develop this empathy, and are there any tools, or recommendation or techniques so that people can develop that level of empathy that is needed to be successful in entrepreneurship?
I mean, the first step is decide you care. It sounds silly, but a lot of people, if you just think of it as a game, you just think of it as like a skill you need to have, you're never going to do it. You're never going to succeed at it. It really has to be this thing that you genuinely want to understand and know to enhance your life, right? So you need to want to have a more loving life, to have a more understanding life, to have a more fulfilling life, right? And if you're actively making decisions to destroy your life, right? And this is where you talk about like things get like work-life balance and quality of life and all that kind of stuff starts getting in play. But if you're constantly living a life and you can look back for the last 10 to 15 years and you've made a bunch of decisions that mostly made you miserable and you don't recall really being happy, there's no amount of just skill building that's going to teach you empathy, because you don't even have the empathy for yourself to care about your own life, to make your own life one you're willing to live, right? And just because you're determined and moving forward and socially acceptable is not the same as having empathy for the life you want to live. And if you're not doing that from a pure place, it's not going to come across in your marketing. And so a lot of the times the companies that we see that do stellar success, right, that just get really big and have perfect marketing that people understand, it's because those founders went through a deep, very personal emotional journey of knowing themselves and living a life they wanted to live. So they built a company they wanted to work in, which inspired people to work in a way that was genuine to them. So the people that they inspire, all the way down, everyone is inspired to live a more genuine life, to live a more in tune life, to live a more empathetic life, right? And that starts from the top. So if you're living an ingenuine, unempathetic life, everyone below you is going to be encouraged to do the same. So you're never going to be able to just learn it as a skill. You've got to commit yourself to a personal journey to live a life you actually want to live with empathy, love, and understanding.
That's punchline, really, real good. Companies like Amazon, right? It's very much logistic driven, right? You have a product, you buy it, it's shipped rapidly and so on. A lot of online commerce now, startups, the ones we work with, they have sort of these niche audiences, right? And they are able to basically have better, more personalized marketing. So I personally believe, but I want to know your opinion on this. I personally believe we're going to enter in that personalized e-commerce, right? Those micro e-commerce companies that make $10 million, $20 million in revenue, but I really have an understanding of their clients. Like example, Raw.co. I don't know if you know the guy, the guys, they help, basically people stop smoking, and they really have an understanding of what the problems of their customers are. They're adding new solutions, new features, the marketing is excellent. So is that what we're going to see, more and more sort of personalized e-commerce succeed versus general?
Yeah, I think we'll see it happen in phases, right? And what I mean by that is I think what's going to get hit first is services, right? We're going to expect people who work in services, who provide anything that adds value to your life in a very kind of like service-based style. That's going to get hit first. I think that's going to be where we really, really expect people to be emotionally in tune to our needs, right? So for example, I just had a bed that was shipped to my house, and I had to tell the people, hey, somebody in my house is actually sick, right? And that company didn't know what to do. They had no way to handle it. Instead, what they did is they took the bed back because they didn't know how to deal with it, and they had to call corporate, and they had no plan. And now we might not get a bed for another 2 weeks, right? And so for me, I just had an awful customer experience because they weren't emotionally in tune to the realities of what I'm facing right now in my life, right? And as a service, that particularly bothers me, right? So that's, I think that'll get hit first. From there, you're probably going to see it in consumer apps, just kind of it's a similar level of kind of service. I think people are going to expect that, again, you're more emotionally in tune, especially since it's such a personal thing. It's in your hand, right, particularly. And as we move on to different AR and VR, you might have headsets and stuff in your eyes and on your wrist, right? There's a whole bunch of variations there, and you're going to really expect personal. I actually think e-commerce is going to be one of the last things to be hit. And the reason I say that is that at the end of the day, while we absolutely like having a good emotional experience and tune emotional experience, for buying our products, right? At the end of the day, most of the time when I think about it, I just want my damn product, right? Like right now, Amazon's taking 2 weeks to deliver and it's the worst, right? And I'm like, no, I'm used to 2 days. This is what I want, right? Like, I don't want you to be in tune to me. I want my product, right? That's what I'm trying to, and so I think we might get there, but only when getting products at any time, once logistics becomes a non-differentiating factor, right? But as long as logistics is still such a major differentiating factor, I think it's going to stay that way until that's no longer true. And there will be a time that delivery is all drones and like anyone can compete, and every new e-commerce thing and be like, yeah, I can offer 24-hour delivery because why not? When that happens, yes, then we'll talk about emotions as a differentiator. Until then, I think it's going to be mostly logistics for a while.
Yep, no, you're right. And then, what is interesting in what you're saying, so for me, e-commerce, I had it in the broader sense. So including services like—
If you mean digital sales, right? I mean, yeah, of course.
E-commerce, but it's true right now, e-commerce, everyone has in mind is, a physical product. But I think what's going on, e-commerce is going to be broader in its commerce, right? Online commerce, it's services, everything is moving online, right? Services and so on and so on. So that's how I had it as a definition, But
yeah, what's going to matter a lot, I think, is it's going to really matter in how you advertise, how you talk about yourself, how you get in front of people. So one of the weirdest things, and I just think this is the cool thing that's happening right now, is that right now, particularly in the US, we're seeing the absolute highest amount of media consumption, and at the same time, the absolute lowest ads, like number of actual ads being displayed at once, right? So this weird level of way more consumption, but also way less ads, right? And so whatever ads are running, the ones that are getting across, the ones that are able to succeed in this environment, right, and not be considered tone deaf, to not be considered irrelevant, are the ones that are playing into the emotional experience of the people, right? In a really cool, so for one of my favorite ones I saw recently was this bandana company that made this really cool video of how they convert their bandanas using 2 rubber bands into masks, right? And I guarantee you that company just sold a ridiculous amount of bandanas. And it's not because they run an ad that's saying, hey, you should buy this and turn it into a mask, right? They just created an organic video that was like, here's a cool thing you can do with a bandana, right? And because they were emotionally in tune with people in that way, and that it was like, hey, we can solve this problem together, and here's a fun thing you can do, they reaped the benefits by helping people in a genuine way and not just saying, buy, right? And that's the emotional in tuneness I think we're going to see more and more as people become aware of and appreciate the fact that they do have emotions and they do care, and it is something that matters to them. And we're going to see that more and more as we become a progressively more emotionally in tune society, right? And that's a general change we're going to see. It's not going to be instant. It's not going to be tomorrow that you have to be an emotionally aware company. But over the next 20, 30, 40 years, I really do expect that we're going to become a much more emotionally aware society. And as such, our companies are going to have to play into that. Our marketing is going to have to play into that. And I say, why not get ahead of it? Right? Why not lead the charge?
And so, Ronnie, give us a little bit, what's your track record in digital marketing?
I've worked on a large various of projects. I mean, right now, my biggest success is helping a $1.5 million agency. Now we're about to scale up by the end of this year. We're suspecting to be about $4.5 million, so 3x. Last year, we also 3x'd, right? So we're on a 300% growth curve year over year right now. And so my job there is largely operations, getting ourselves together, understanding our marketing, put it together systematically, right? Which is something I'll talk about here later. That's been a big success. I've launched a lot of online courses. I have a few websites that do about 120,000 users per month. I've done about $250,000 in online sales for those course launches I was talking about. And then, a few different projects I've worked with helping scale up other startups that have ended up doing $10, $15 million a year, right? With me playing my role in that, right? So that's kind of my background, my experience. Largely, I've been moving towards lately being involved in operations. And how do you think about what are the underlying systems that build your success, both in marketing as well as a company and as a founder?
Excellent, excellent. Now, what are the online courses?
Yeah, they've ran the gambit, right? I have been in B2C a lot. So one of them was working with a preschool-based brand. She worked with, she had a little bit over 8 million visitors a year. She worked with, literally millions of preschool teachers to help them create curriculum to teach students. And she did it for years for free as a hobby. And I said, whoa, you've got 8 million visitors. Let's turn this into a product, right? And we ended up turning that into a monthly subscription product that did very well in a few, within 1.5 to 2 years, right? Doing about $250,000. So it's doing more than that, right? It's generated far more than that nowadays, right? But that was the initial success with that project. I lived in Cambodia for 2 months in a meditation retreat, and I told them, I exchanged, I wanted to live there for free. And I said, hey, let me live here for free for 2 months. Give me all my food, my housing, 2 lessons of yoga per day, 2 meditation sessions per day. Give everything for me for free for 2 months. And I promise at the end of 2 months, you'll do at least $10,000 in online course sales on a course that didn't even exist yet. So in 2 months, I helped them invent, record, market, and promote an online course. On the exact day I left, they made their 100th sale for the $10,000. My promise fulfilled on the dot. Yeah, it's a smaller number, but one of my favorite successes because I was like, I could predict it. And I actually did exactly what I said that I predicted on day one, right? I was like, that's a win. That was a win.
Excellent. What is your vision of what we need to do with these guys in the next 3 months?
The first thing that matters to me is shifting their mindset. And we'll send a link to this. I'm sure you'll put it in the comments or something, or make it very easy access. There's this great article by NFX.com, networkeffects.com, that talks about the psychology of winning founders during a downturn. And what it goes through is that, especially in a moment like this with COVID, right, there is a painful loss to grieve for most companies. Very few companies right now are in a moment where like, I'm doing so great. I'm in such a moment of strength. This was the moment I was waiting for, right? Like, that's not what most people are experiencing. Because what's really happening here is that most of these founders have lost every plan they thought they had. I have companies right now who no longer have access to the funding they thought they were going to have. They had investors ready to roll, and then COVID hit, and now all of that's gone. So every plan, every intention, everything you've put together is gone, right? And you've got to go through a grieving process, right? Because if you keep denying it, if you keep pretending it's not lost, you're trying to convince yourself it's not, you're not dealing with the reality that it is, you're not going to be able to think creatively to react to the reality of life right now, right? And so this article will bring you through what does it look like to go through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and then finally, when you actually reset and accept your new reality, what is the reality of today and moving forward, right? Like some of those shifts I talk about, more emotionally aware and just, helping people, those different shifts that are now happening and becoming reality, right? How can you be creative in this new environment, right? But you can't be creative until you fully accept what you lost, go through that go through those entire processes of grieving there, then start creating from the reality you're actually in, kind of like you did from the very beginning on day one, right? On day one, you had nothing to grieve. You were just starting. So you were being able to be most creative, right? So how do you start thinking about today like day one as a brand new reality and face that?
So now let's get concrete for this program, for these entrepreneurs. What are you envisioning? What do we have in store?
Yeah. So, absolutely. Again, as the stuff I said before, the number one thing for me is helping them shift their mindset, right? We'd start there, talk about the emotions, get everybody understanding like, hey, this is a different reality and you need to think differently and act differently. Second to that, one of the things I always talk about, anybody who's been in some of my seminars I ran with you, one of the big things I talk about is systems. And second to that is that everything you put online, everything, even offline, everything is a landing page, right? And so let's talk about that for a second. So when I talk about everything is a landing page, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that when you think about a landing page is, you think about it's usually something that has a very clear goal or intention. You show very specific information. You want people to click this button, or you want them to click this button, or you want them to scroll here, and you test it, and you expect, and you see how well can you get people to do what you want. And I want people to take that mentality and apply it to everything they do online. Because I know so many companies, they'll go make the best landing page, but then they go to their website and they're like, yeah, it's good enough. It's got the information you need, right? And I'm like, yeah, well, what do you want them to do? Well, but just give them the information. And I'm like, yeah, but this is the first time they've seen you. What do you want them to do? What do you want them to know? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to think, right? Like, you can control that. Why are you not, right? And like, that's something I'm working with them to understand. Like, hey, everything you put out, whether that's a press release, a social media post, your website, doesn't matter. It's a landing page, and you can control that experience if you're consciously aware of it and use it to your advantage, which then ties into, right, what I was talking about, that everything is a system, right? And so if you really want to succeed, whether in your marketing or as a company, you need to think about not only how do I do this once, but how do I do this over and over and over again, right? Because if you only have one social media post that ever works, you're not going to succeed, right? If you only are able to deliver your product once successfully, you're never going to succeed, right? If you've got no way to keep making your product better or keep making your marketing better, reliably, consistently, over and over again, right? You're never going to be able to do it. And even worse, if you're not tracking what were you before, how do you know if after is better, right? Yep. And it's your systems that allow you to actually see who were we, where were we at, where are we at now, where are we going, and what are we doing to get there and get where we want to be, right? Yep. And so you need to be implementing those systems all the time.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ronnie, for that. So the business that does 300K, we'll put the foundation, the system to turn it into a $3 million business, right? So that's the promise. You get that business in front of you. What is the first thing, second thing, third thing you would immediately do?
I get real with the founders, right? We talk about that mindset shift. We talk about who are they actually, what is their, who are they going to be as a person? What life are they going to live? Let's get really clear on who are they, because you can build a system to do whatever you want. But if you're going 90 miles per hour in a direction you don't actually want to go in, to build a life you don't want to actually live, to be in a company that you don't actually like going to work for, right? None of those systems matter. You've just built a system for a system's sake, right? And so every founder is the core of every other system, right? So you got to know, who do you want to be? What kind of life do you want to live? How much do you want to work? What's your end goal? Do you want to be this big or that big? Do you want to be able to do remote work, right? Like, who do you want to be as a person, right? And then you start there, okay? Then you can say, great, okay. Now we know we want to be as a person, okay? Second to that, okay, who do our customers want to be as a person, right? So you go into your buyer personas, you go into their journey, you go into their emotions, and you really try to understand, as much as you now know yourself, know your customer, right? And then of course you go from there, you map it all out, you go through that process, your typical marketing stuff, and then you say, great, okay, how do I go through and actually systemize that? Whether that's through, as I was saying before, with all the different landing pages, whether that's through, going through and working through social media, immediately reaching out to people, cold emailing, whatever, it doesn't matter what your system is, right? But it's, once you know yourself, then you know your customer, then you can go and say, okay, great. Okay, now I know these two things. How do I go and actually make the things that they want to happen and I want to happen, right? And that's through various systems, right? And in marketing, you're typically talking about that maybe like, okay, we need to cold email people, right? We need to reach out to them 3 times, call them 4 times, right? If it's all digital, that might be Facebook ads. That might be, especially in COVID right now, that might be hosting webinars. That might be bringing people together. That might be trying to be a thought leader. That might be making YouTube videos. Whatever it is, right? Going in and making sure that you can repeatedly do that, right? Test it, see where you were, track where you were, see where you want to be, and see how successful you're able to get there and build those systems. And it's a lot easier. I mean, it's always so hard when you think you're doing it, when you're doing it in the dark, right? And most companies are doing it in the dark because they've never asked themselves, who do they actually want to be, right? Like, how do they want to feel, right? And who are their customers and how do they want to feel and who do they want to be? Well, then you know everything, right? You know where you're at and you know where you want to go. You know where customers at and you know where they want to go. Yes. If you know those things, a system's easy. You know how to get it. You just build. You just go do it, right? But most people have no idea where they're going. And if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there.
Excellent. No, completely. Well, nice punchline again. Excellent, excellent. Well, the 10X program is about to begin. What's your message to the participants?
Yeah, Alastair, great question. For anyone thinking about this program, the number one thing and the number one reason I would tell you to join this program and to think about joining is join this program if you feel like you would value or gain from having your perspective shift, to see things that you couldn't see before, to see ideas and angles and just anything. This program covers so many different angles: how to run your company, how to think about your own personal life, how to build your operations, everything. They're going to have you see things that you've never even looked at, didn't even know to look for, right? You're going to go from feeling blind to feeling very clear-eyed when you didn't even know you were blind, right? It's a unique program that helps you get where you want to go, not by telling you exactly what you need to do, not by telling you all the ways you're wrong, but helping you see a path clearly for yourself. And that is worth its weight in gold.